The sheriff's deputy unfolded the court order at 9:14 a.m., and $17 million of cameras, lights, and hope went dark.
Kyle, tell me this is a mistake.
From her porch across the subdivision, Christine Whitfield watched the shutdown with a cordless phone pressed to her ear, a tight smile beneath her coral pink blazer. Within 12 minutes, the director called cut for the last time. Grips collapsed light stands. The caterers killed the burners. The sound of zippered cases replaced the clatter of a living set.
Everyone follow the order. No one give them anything they can use against us.
None of the crew knew yet what Christine had really triggered, that the state's $80 million production tax credit, the quiet engine behind 600 property tax abatements in Pineview Estates, had just been put at risk.
Stephen, if this holds, the studio pulls out completely. We lose everything, not just the shoot, the whole tax structure.
Then we make sure it doesn't hold. But first, I need to know exactly what Christine thinks she's accomplishing.
Christine had already emailed the HOA board. Production permanently halted, neighborhood standards upheld. She didn't mention the tax credit. She probably didn't even know it existed. By noon, the only evidence the film set had existed was a movie trailer by Stephen's barn and a deputy's carbon copy on his kitchen table, and the first whispers of a $4,200 hole in every homeowner's tax estimate. Elaine Marchetti answered on the second ring. The state film commissioner's voice was already heavy.
It's Stephen. A county judge just shut us down mid-scene. Christine Whitfield filed nuisance complaints.
Stephen, if the production folds, the entire community tax credit allocation collapses. Every homeowner in Pineview loses their $4,200 abatement.
The statute was Section 24, minus 48.5, negative 112, an obscure line item that tied the tax break to uninterrupted production days. One cease and desist could nullify the deal.
How much time do we have?
Studio Legal says if we're dark more than 3 shoot days, they're terminating the agreement. They've already started the paperwork.
At the county assessor's office, the automated system was already recalculating property tax estimates. Absent the credit, the average liability jumped $350 per month.
15 years building this program, and one woman's vendetta could dismantle it by Friday.
Christine, meanwhile, had just posted a triumphant message in the Pineview Estates Community Forum. Order restored. The film crew has been removed. She closed her laptop, poured a glass of Chardonnay, and never once opened the link that would have shown her the tax credit rider attached to the original residential development permits. By 2 o'clock, Maura Colson stood in her catering kitchen with a clipboard, crossing off names, 23 employees, some who had worked for her since the business started.
23 people, Stephen. Some of them single mothers. All because Christine Whitfield decided diesel fumes violated the neighborhood aesthetic.
I am not letting this stand, Maura, but I need something she cares about more than noise complaints.
That evening, the Pineview Estates HOA board held their monthly meeting. Christine arrived early, her binder full of code citations already tabbed.
The county judge ruled in our favor, precisely because our covenants are legally sound. This isn't about one person's inconvenience. It's about preserving property values.
While she spoke, the county assessor's automated system mailed 614 revised tax estimates. The covering letter read, per statute 24 minus 48.5 negative 112, your property tax abatement is contingent upon an active production agreement. Potential revocation may result in an additional $350 per month. By dawn, 47 copies had been opened. The first panicked post hit the community forum at 6:12 a.m. Did anyone else get a letter about a $4,200 tax credit? Stephen opened the same email forwards on his phone. Homeowners demanding to know if the production shutdown meant they'd lose the abatement they'd budgeted into their mortgages.
The dominoes are falling, and Christine just lit the match. I have 48 hours before the studio walks, and the whole community blames me.
The third shoot day passed in silence. At Wogo Wuji, a studio courier delivered a FedEx envelope to Stephen's door, Termination notice effective midnight if production did not resume. The termination notice was short. Pursuant to Section 8.2 of the production agreement, failure to maintain continuous shooting days constitutes a material breach. This contract terminates at 12 a.m. unless production resumes.
Elaine, they sent the formal termination. Midnight tonight. We can't resume while the court order stands. It's an impossible circle.
Stephen, once that contract lapses, the tax credit evaporates automatically. The state treasurer's system will update at midnight, and 614 tax abatements will vanish.
Meanwhile, Christine Whitfield's phone lit up with notifications. Not applause, but homeowners demanding to know why their tax bills had suddenly spiked.
I didn't touch anyone's tax credits. I enforced the community standards that preserve your property values. You should be thanking me.
By 7 o'clock, a small crowd had gathered outside the HOA clubhouse, not to protest the film crew, but to demand answers about the $4,200 they'd just lost.
10 news crews want to know why a state-backed incentive program just imploded. Stephen, the story is bigger than the film now. It's about betrayal.
She's right. The truth will come out anyway. The only question is whose narrative gets there first.
At 11:42 p.m., Stephen opened the State Film Commission's quarterly reporting portal and began typing the one document he was required to file, a neutral, factual account of the shutdown. In the report, he attached the court order, the termination notice, and a single line. "Cause HOA nuisance complaint filed by Christine Whitfield, Pineview Estates board member, resulting in 4-day production halt and contract lapse." At 12:01 a.m., the state treasurer's system processed Stephen's report. The line item Pineview Estates community offset flipped to revoked. 67 words and $80 million disappeared. Christine Whitfield's phone rang at 6:30 a.m. A neighbor named Tim Barlow didn't bother with pleasantries.
The tax credit? That's not my department. I enforced parking and noise codes. If the state pulled funding, blame the Film Commission.
Stephen, 2 lenders have already frozen mortgage refinancing for Pineview homeowners. Without the offset, their debt-to-income ratios fail.
That's $350 a month. Some families can't absorb. Christine just made 60 enemies for every one she thought she was protecting.
By noon, the local restaurant that had supplied craft services for the production posted a "for lease" sign. 11 line cooks lost their jobs.
Stephen, I can't rehire anyone. The contracts are gone. My company's name is now attached to a canceled production. No one will book us.
The machine is built to be neutral. I don't need to lift a finger for the consequences to arrive, but I also can't stop them now.
By evening, a group of homeowners had collected outside Christine's house, not with pitchforks but with calculators, and a formal demand for a special HOA recall vote. Elaine, Marchetti's assistant, forwarded an email. The State Attorney General's office had opened a routine review of the Pineview Estates revocation and wanted to speak with Stephen. The AG's investigator arrived at 8 sharp. Stephen answered 47 questions, his documents already stamped and sorted.
They don't want me. They want a clean narrative, and the narrative leads straight to Christine.
Through a county clerk's tip, Christine learned the quarterly report named her as the sole cause of the credit collapse.
He's using a government report to destroy me. This is retaliation. File an ethics complaint today.
The board voted 7-2 to submit a formal ethics complaint, alleging Stephen abused his position.
The bank sent a default notice. 60 days until foreclosure.
The ethics complaint freezes my pension. If they rule against me, I walk away with nothing after 30 years.
A local news segment aired. Scandal or overreach? Christine gave a tearful interview, calling herself a victim of a vindictive bureaucrat.
She's rewriting the story, but the records are public. Let the ethics board read what I filed.
The AG's audit widened to every past revocation. Stephen was placed on administrative leave, his commission badge suspended. The ethics hearing opened under harsh fluorescent light. Stephen took the seat reserved for the accused his quarterly report projected on a screen behind him.
They're asking the right questions, but the wrong person is on trial.
Christine sat in the back row, coral blazer ironed, her expression a mask of victimhood. She'd already filed her own affidavit. 14 pages of alleged retaliation. The lead investigator read Stephen's report aloud. Cause: HOA nuisance complaint filed by Christine Whitfield, resulting in contract lapse. Then she asked, "Did you withhold any context to damage her reputation?"
I withheld nothing. The county order and the termination are in my report. The link between her complaint and the credit lapse is statutory. I didn't write the law.
During the recess, Stephen's phone vibrated. Maura had forwarded a bank letter. The letter was brief. Due to loss of income verification, your home equity line has been frozen. Repayment terms renegotiation required within 10 days.
The house we built together. The kitchen Maura designed. All of it can be taken, not by a developer, but by a bank that sees risk in my name.
Outside Christine's house, the crowd had grown. A clipboard circulated with a petition, demand for a special election to remove her, and a resolution to sue for individual damages. Then a call. Kyle's voice was tight. The studio's legal team wants a confidential meeting. They're exploring a state-protected easement. To restart, but only if the HOA is neutralized. Stephen drove to the studio's legal offices with a frozen pension and a credit line cut to zero. The receptionist handed him a visitor badge without a word.
They're offering a deal, Stephen. A state-protected production easement that would pull your property out of HOA jurisdiction entirely.
The lead attorney, a woman with a silver pen, slid a single page across the polished wood. At the top were the words, "Production Easement, Draft Proposal, Section 7, C. Read." Upon signature, the property shall be exempt from any homeowners association, regulatory authority for the duration of the production, pending state legislative certification.
That's a legislative easement. It could work, but the state legislature needs to pass it. The Film Commission can't just declare it.
The AG's office has already flagged Pineview as a risk zone. If the homeowners vote to decertify their board, the commission can fast-track the easement.
Stephen's phone buzzed with a news alert. Christine Whitfield had filed an emergency motion to invalidate the recall petition, claiming procedural defects in the signature collection.
She's blocking her own neighbors from voting on their future. That's the desperation I needed to see.
The attorney capped her pen. "Mr. Coulson, if the recall fails, this easement dies and your property stays locked in a court battle that could outlast the film's financing." Stephen and Kyle left the conference room with the draft easement, a document that could either revive the production or become another piece of evidence in a growing file.
If the recall fails, this easement is worthless, and Maura loses everything we've built.
At 9 o'clock the next morning, Judge Harold Caldwell issued his ruling on Christine Whitfield's emergency motion to quash the recall petition. The order read, "Motion granted in part. 250 signatures are invalidated due to incomplete witness addresses. The recall petition no longer meets the required threshold and is hereby suspended."
The recall is dead. Now I want Coulson removed from the commission permanently, and my attorneys are already drafting the brief.
That evening, inside the HOA clubhouse, a homeowner stood and thrust a clipboard into the air. 600 individual claims of tortious interference, he announced. One for every household that lost $4,200.
Stephen, if they file a class action, Christine could be personally liable for millions, but you can't be anywhere near it. It'll look like retaliation.
I don't need to orchestrate. I just need to make sure the right people see what's already happening.
At 10:14 p.m., Stephen forwarded the homeowner group's class action announcement to Elaine Marchetti with a single line for the quarterly report attachment. The ethics board posted an update. Decision on Stephen's complaint in 72 hours. The recall vote might be dead, but the real trial was only beginning. 72 hours later, the ethics board released its finding. Stephen Coulson had filed a truthful report within his official duties. No abuse of power, no retaliation. The complaint against him was dismissed with prejudice.
Truth held, but it won't bank a paycheck or stop the foreclosure clock.
Stephen, the state treasurer, just signed the final order. Pineview Estates is decertified as a film-eligible zone for 10 years. No tax credits, no easement override.
The document read, Pineview Estates has been designated a non-film eligible zone. Under Statute 24, minus 48.5, negative 112, effective for a period of 10 years, due to the cancellation causing nuisance complaint.
The studio just pulled the easement offer. They can't invest in a location that can't qualify for the credit. It's dead money.
That same morning, a process server handed Christine Whitfield a thick envelope on her front porch. 600 individual tortious interference claims, one for every household that lost the $4,200 abatement.
You cannot serve me on my own property. This is harassment, pure and simple. I'll have your license.
Stephen watched the video clip of the service on his phone while sitting in the kitchen that Maura was about to lose. 4 news crews had captured every second.
The bank sent the formal foreclosure notice. We have 30 days to vacate. The house, the business, everything.
The irony is perfect. She got her quiet neighborhood back, and now the bank will take it from everyone who stood behind her.
The call came at 2 in the morning, when bad news usually arrived. But Kyle's voice carried something Stephen hadn't heard in weeks. Hope.
The studio didn't walk away, Stephen. They rewrote the entire third act. The villain's lair, it's the Pineview Estates clubhouse.
Wait, they want to film the climax inside the HOA, Christine's own headquarters.
They already drafted the easement for your property, but they need the clubhouse for 2 weeks, and they'll pay triple the standard location fee, enough to cover all 600 tax credits.
By dawn, the state legislature had responded. The economic hit from Pineview Estates was headline news, and a new bill, the Production Protection Act, passed both chambers and the governor's signature was assured.
Section 4 of the Act grants a statutory easement to any previously designated film location whose production was halted by nuisance complaints. Your property qualifies automatically.
The easement is back, the film is back, and Christine just lost her last legal weapon.
But the studio's new plan required more than Stephen's land. They needed the HOA clubhouse, and they'd pay enough to cover every homeowner's lost tax credit, if the board approved.
They want to use our clubhouse as a villain's lair? Over my dead body. I'll tie this up in court for a decade.
The fight wasn't over. But for the first time since the deputy unfolded that court order, Stephen Coulson had the upper hand, and a movie to finish. Christine called an emergency HOA meeting at noon, expecting to rally the board against the studio's desecration of their clubhouse.
This board will not sell our community's dignity to a film crew. Our clubhouse is not a prop for some Hollywood fantasy.
But the room had changed since the shutdown. A man in the third row stood up, holding a foreclosure notice. That location fee covers exactly $4,200 per household, the money your complaint cost us. You don't get to decide whether we eat. A woman beside him unfolded her own calculation, the math of how many months her family could survive without the abatement. Within minutes, 5 board members received texts from their own lenders. Their mortgages now depended on this vote.
I don't need to win any argument. The numbers are winning it for me.
The board voted 6-1 to negotiate the location agreement, bypassing Christine entirely.
This isn't over. I'll file an injunction, a temporary restraining order, anything to stop this film from making a mockery of our community.
But by evening, the studio had delivered the location contract to Stephen's door, and the Production Protection Act had already stripped the HOA of the authority Christine claimed. Judge Caldwell denied Christine's emergency restraining order within 40 minutes. The Production Protection Act, he wrote, leaves this court no room to grant the requested relief.
She threw her last legal punch, and the law didn't flinch. Now we can actually make this film.
Stephen, the Treasurer's Office, is considering a conditional reinstatement of the tax credit for any homeowner who didn't participate in the tortious interference suits. It could heal the neighborhood, or fracture it completely.
Stephen understood the math. If the credit returned selectively, the lawsuits would become a referendum on loyalty, not just money.
The bank called. The studio's contract is enough to pause foreclosure. We have 6 months to close the gap, but it's a start.
Christine, meanwhile, had driven to the county clerk's office demanding the original HOA and corporation documents. She was searching for a clause that would let her dissolve the board before the film crew arrived. The deputy clerk handed her a certified copy, then informed her that any dissolution would still require a homeowner vote, a vote she no longer controlled. An hour later, in her lawyer's office, the real cost of her campaign became clear. The lead plaintiff's attorney had sent a settlement demand, $1.9 million from her personal assets, or face 600 individual trials.
I never wanted her bankrupt, but I wanted her to understand what she did. Now the system is doing the explaining.
The film trucks were scheduled to arrive Monday. The clubhouse would become a villain's lair, and somewhere inside her shrinking empire, Christine Whitfield was learning the price of quiet. Monday morning, Stephen's phone buzzed with Elaine's name. He answered before the second ring, the easement papers spread across his desk.
Stephen, the treasurer will sign the conditional credit reinstatement, but it requires your formal recommendation. If you endorse it, you are publicly choosing sides.
If I sign, I become the man who destroyed Christine Whitfield in every headline. If I don't, the neighbors who trusted me lose their last chance.
Stephen, you didn't start this, and you don't have to finish it. But if you don't sign, we lose the house for good.
Before he could respond, a breaking news alert flashed. Christine Whitfield had called a press conference and swore she would pay the $1.9 million settlement personally if Stephen Coulson resigned from the commission.
Stephen, if you resign, the easement could collapse. The studio won't trust an unstable location. But if you don't, she'll call you a monster on every channel.
She's giving me a way out that saves my family, but costs the community everything. It's a bribe wrapped in public sacrifice.
He reached for the recommendation form, then paused, his pension statement and Mora's catering contracts visible beside it. One signature meant career suicide, the other, community betrayal.
I'll sign, but I am also calling a community meeting tonight. If she wants a spectacle, I'll give her one, on my terms.
The signature went through at 10:14 a.m. By noon, the film trucks had unloaded at his property, and Christine's press conference was scheduled for 6, the collision now unavoidable. At 4 p.m., Stephen stood on the back of a flatbed truck, a portable speaker in front of him. Over 200 neighbors had gathered, their lawn chairs and worry lines turned toward the man who had already cost them a tax credit.
I signed the recommendation this morning. If the treasurer approves it, your abatements come back, but only if you didn't join the lawsuit against Mrs. Whitfield.
A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some clutched foreclosure notices. Others stared at the ground. The condition had split the room before Stephen finished his sentence.
Stephen, you just told half these people they have to choose between their lawsuit and their home. You just made enemies on both sides.
Maybe, but the only way to save the community was to make them see that their real enemy wasn't me. It was the lawsuit they were all paying for.
At 5:55 p.m., Christine Whitfield stepped to a podium outside the county courthouse. 8 cameras trained on her, the settlement check for $1.9 million already drafted.
I will personally reimburse every single family in Pineview Estates for the tax credit they lost, today, in full, if Stephen Coulson resigns from the State Film Commission by midnight.
In his office, Stephen watched the live stream with Kyle beside him. The pension paperwork sat in front of him, like a surrender treaty.
If I take her deal, my family keeps the house, and the neighbors get their money. But the film dies, and she walks away a hero. I am not resigning. Call Elaine, tell her the recommendation stands, and tell the studio we start shooting tomorrow.
The studio received the green light at 10:41 p.m. 18 trucks hummed to life on Stephen's property. Christine's publicist handed her a tablet. Stephen's rejection statement was already trending. A homeowner named Ramirez held up a letter on Facebook Live. I am dropping the suit. My tax credit matters more.
The bank paused foreclosure, but they want 6 months mortgage in escrow by Friday.
The treasurer approved it. Stephen, Homeowners who didn't sue get their $4,200 back.
Christine watched the live stream. The check slipped from her fingers and landed on the courthouse steps at 9 p.m. The studio announced, "Trespass starts principal photography tomorrow. The Villain's Lair, Pineview Estates Clubhouse."
I saved the movie, but my pension's frozen, and Christine's next move is already filed.
At 11:39 p.m., her attorneys challenged the Production Protection Act as unconstitutional before the state Supreme Court. The court docketed the appeal at 11:58 p.m., 2 minutes left until the credit deadline, and 6 hours until the film's first shot. At 2:09 a.m., a state Supreme Court justice issued a temporary injunction freezing the Production Protection Act. The easement was legally paralyzed.
Stephen, the stay is in place. If you roll a camera, you are in contempt of court. The AG's office already warned me.
If we don't shoot, the credit dies again. The homeowners who dropped their suits will lose everything. I'll be the one who broke their trust.
The bank called. They want 6 months' mortgage in escrow by Friday, $28,000, or they restart foreclosure.
The IRA is all we have. $28,000, exactly the amount that's left. If I cash it, Mora's retirement is gone. Kyle, tell the director we roll at 6. The original location contract predates the act. I'll carry the legal risk.
At 6:15 a.m., the first shot rolled. A crane swept over the HOA clubhouse, now dressed as a villain's lair with creeping ivy and dark banners.
He's defying a court order. Get a federal marshal to the set immediately. I want the cameras seized.
A marshal arrived at 6:45, but the studio's legal team met him with a 14-page federal preemption brief. He left without touching a camera.
I just bet our home on a legal loophole. If the court upholds this appeal, I lose the pension, the house, and Mora's trust.
By mid-morning, the state Supreme Court convened an emergency session. The Attorney General himself argued that the act was constitutional, citing the Pineview debacle as Exhibit A.
Stephen, the court ruled 5-2. The act is upheld, the injunction dissolved immediately. The Film Commission is calling this a landmark for film economy states.
The gamble paid off. The pension is safe, the house is ours, and Christine just lost the last tool that could bury us.
At the Coulson kitchen, Mora held a letter from the bank. The production contract had satisfied every condition. Foreclosure was permanently halted. Christine's attorney relayed the final denial of her appeal and the deadline for the $1.9 million settlement.
Then they'll have to sue me for every penny. I'll file for bankruptcy before I pay 1 cent.
But the state treasurer's office had already reinstated the tax credit for the 600 households that dropped their suits. The community's financial hemorrhage stopped. Principal photography pushed forward without interruption. The cameras capturing the HOA clubhouse as a villain's lair, a permanent karmic monument. When the final shot wrapped, the director held up the clapperboard for the crew. The movie was complete.
We did it. Now the world gets to see what happened here, and Christine will have to watch it on every screen.
6 months later, the studio dropped the trailer. The HOA clubhouse, draped in black fabric and fake ivy, trended worldwide in 23 minutes. Christine Whitfield watched from a corner booth in a half-empty bar, the looped footage of her own clubhouse filling the screen. She didn't finish her drink. Stephen and Mora walked the red carpet hand in hand, his film commission lanyard replaced with a tuxedo, her caterer's coat swapped for an evening gown.
Every scene in that clubhouse is a receipt. It's not just a movie, it's the truth, permanently recorded.
Inside, when the villain's lair appeared, the audience erupted, not at the actor, but at the engraved stone sign reading Pineview Estates, untouched by the art department. The morning after the premiere, Christine Whitfield's attorneys filed notice of a $1.9 million personal settlement. Every cent drawn from her own accounts.
Take it. It's only money, but they'll never take my dignity that died the day I let a location scout outlast me.
Elaine Marchetti's office confirmed the tax credit was fully reinstated for all 600 households. The state also lifted the 10-year decertification. Pineview was officially forgiven. Stephen's pension was unfrozen the following Monday. The ethics complaint was formally expunged, his commission badge returned with a letter of commendation.
It's done. The film is a monument to the truth, and somewhere in a dark bar, Christine knows it too.
On the 14th of June, a certified check for $1.9 million arrived at the lead plaintiff's attorney's office, every cent drawn from Christine Whitfield's personal accounts.
Transfer it and get it out of my sight. I'm resigning from the board. Pineview can burn for all I care.
The Pineview Estates HOA board officially dissolved the Neighborhood Standards Committee by unanimous vote. The position Christine held was eliminated permanently. Stephen drove past the entrance, where a new plaque now read, "Designated Film Production Zone by order of the State Film Commission."
The kitchen's alive again, Stephen. I rehired every single person. The production contract funded our revival.
Stephen, 6 other states just adopted our Production Protection Act. Your quarterly report changed the law.
That report was just the truth. I wrote it sitting in this kitchen, wondering how to save Mora's business. Now it's reshaping film policy across the country.
The final gross on trespass hit $312 million domestically. Every dollar owed to the 600 homeowners was repaid through the distributor's bonus clause. The tax credit letters went out the same week, 4,200 per household, with a note from the treasurer, "Thank you for your patience." On the anniversary of the shutdown, Stephen stood on his land, the now empty clubhouse visible in the distance. Forever a villain's lair on film. The evening air was cool, the kind that carries the scent of pine and a long finished film set. Stephen and Mora walked the edge of the 30-acre property, their hands loosely clasped.
I thought we'd lost everything that morning. Now there's a movie that'll outlive us both.
Not just a movie, a permanent record of what happens when ego meets accountability.
On the main road, a tour bus slowed near the clubhouse. Visitors with phones raised snapped photos of the now iconic facade.
She wanted quiet. Instead, she got immortality, the worst kind, where 1,000 people a day pay to see where she lost.
Back at the house, Mora pinned the first catering check to the fridge. A magnet shaped like a film slate held it in place.
The report wasn't revenge. It was just the truth. And sometimes the truth is the sharpest weapon a man can wield.
He wouldn't watch the film again. Not because it was painful, but because he'd already lived it. On the screen, the movie would play forever. The HOA clubhouse, the villain's lair, the tangible proof that justice doesn't always need a gavel.
Sometimes, all you need is a quarterly report, and the patience to let the machine do its work.
He filed that quarterly report without ceremony, a routine task any deputy could have done. But the machine remembered every line. The following spring, the state revised its production easement statutes, the language from Pineview now enshrined in law.
The kitchen tripled its accounts. Every studio wants the crew that beat an HOA.
I never set out to be a lesson. But if I am one, let it be this. Paperwork kills arrogance faster than any argument.
On the film's second anniversary, 3,000 visitors flocked to the clubhouse. The villain's lair had become a pilgrimage site. Christine Whitfield's name never appeared in the credits. But her legacy was in every frame. Stephen Coulson retired from the commission at 60. His resignation letter was one paragraph, shorter than the quarterly report that changed everything.
The truth doesn't need to be shouted. It just needs to be written down.
And in a dark bar on the edge of town, the woman in the coral pink blazer never did finish that drink. The screen cut to black. The file remained open.